everybody. This is my November wrap-up, and that's basically all the books that I read this month. This month I read 6. So let's just get started. At the beginning of the month, I read Twilight. I was interested in rereading Twilight as an adult. And as I started reading it, I was like, I remember why I liked this. This is so cute. This is so adorable. I mean, it's pure fluffy romance, which, why did we hate on it? I mean, it's just romance. Like, it's not trying to be anything other than it's not. Other than it's not? Did that make sense? It's not trying to be anything that it's not. I get to the end, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Now that I'm an adult, I kind of see the issues that I have now with Edward being a little bit controlling in the end there. So if you've been living under a rock for the past 10 years, basically Twilight is about a human girl who's about 16, no, she's 17. She's 17. How long have you been 17? She's 17, and she falls in love with a vampire named Edward Cullen, and he's perfect and beautiful and romantic and chivalrous, and she's kind of like, she thinks she's plain and she likes to read. And The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and how it was sort of a, it's hard to describe. It's sort of a possible future that I think would be taking place now in the timeline of the book, because it was written kind of long ago. I forgot to look up when it was written, but basically the main character's name, I have to look this up again, Offred. That's not her real name. So growing up, she had a totally different name, and I don't think she ever tells you. So she narrates, it's first person. She's telling you this story, how basically her job, she's a handmaid, and her job is to have a baby, but it's not romantic, it's not passionate, it's not sexy. The wife is actually laying behind her. It's so weird, and she's just a vessel. The society, the way it changed, is very new. So she remembers how it was before, when women could have birth control and women could read and go to college and all this stuff, and now all of a sudden all these rights are taken away from them. When they were talking about defunding Planned Parenthood, this was before I read this, but then this book made me think of that. Like, what if they had actually succeeded in doing that? That would have been sort of one of the first steps in this crazy, like, scary society. So, alright, I think I've talked enough about this. It was interesting. I think you should read it. I listened to Tyler Oakley's audiobook, his book Binge by Tyler Oakley. So I listened to it on audiobook, and he narrates it, so it was super hilarious. I loved listening to his story. It's so interesting. I mean, if you watch Tyler Oakley on YouTube, and you like him and you subscribe to him, I would definitely recommend you listen to his book or read his book. By listening to it, I think I missed out on some, like, family pictures and little pictures that he added, because I flipped through the book when I was at Target. So I saw the actual book. So that's what you miss out on if you listen to the audiobook. But if you listen to the audiobook, you get to hear, like, I don't know, he'll like check up on you. He'll be like, oh, you're listening to my audiobook. Tweet me and tell me what you think of it so far. And just like, and his laugh, like, you know his laugh, how it's so great. So I really enjoyed listening to that. This is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and I did mention how much I loved it. So this follows Simon Snow and Baz, that's his last name, Tyrrhenius Basilton or whatever. So this is sort of a spin-off of Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and Kath, the main character, Fangirl, was a fan of the Simon Snow series, and she was writing a fan fiction called Carry On. So this isn't supposed to be Kath's fan fiction. It's sort of if Rainbow Rowell wanted to write a fan fiction about these characters that she created. So it's supposed to be like the 7th book in a series. That's kind of how it's supposed to read, and it totally reads like that. I love the characters so much. The relationship between Simon and Baz is just so adorable. They're so cute together. I love the world building. I also love how, I'm saying I love a lot, but I do. I loved this book. I love the end pages, I think that's what they're called, and how it's a map of Watford, which is basically like Hogwarts, but you know, different. It's supposed to be a little reminiscent, I think, of Harry Potter without actually being, it's not, I wouldn't call it a ripoff. It's not a ripoff of Harry Potter. I think it's reminiscent of Harry Potter and just different. It's romantic, it's funny, classic rainbow rowell. I highly recommend this, especially if you liked Fangirl. You should read this. I read Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, and I have mixed feelings about this book. So I feel like it was really overhyped for me. I was expecting so much more from it, I guess. The main character's name is Karou. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just going to say Karou. And she's an art student who lives in Prague. But she has this secret past, and she doesn't really know much about her own history. So she carries around this sketchbook filled with drawings of these demons, and so her friends look at it and think that they're fictional, but they're actually real. So she actually runs errands for this demon guy, collecting teeth of humans and all sorts of different animals. She doesn't know what the teeth are for, but when she brings them to him, he gives her wishes. So that's what intrigued me, is like, you want to know why he needs these teeth, you know, what are these wishes, like how do these wishes come to be? You meet this angel, Akiva, and you start to learn that there's a big war going on between angels and demons. All of a sudden, after like you get this sort of romance, the book totally changes. So I don't really want to tell you how it changes, but it's almost like halfway through, or a little bit over halfway through, it's a totally different book. And it makes sense at the time. You're like, oh, okay, so this is all going to come together. But like, once I hit that point, which if you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about, I was like, what? I know that there's a point to this, but it totally slowed everything down for me. So the first 2/3 of the book were really intriguing. I was really interested in the romance, which kind of seemed like insta-love, but I knew that there was a reason behind the insta-love, which I'm not going to get into because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But I would probably give this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't really give books star ratings just because I always like flip-flop on it. But I'm going to say 3.5 out of 5 stars for this because it intrigued me enough. It was unique and creative enough for me to want to pick up the next book. Alright, so the last book I read this month, I didn't read as much as I wanted to because of NaNoWriMo, but I did read one more, and it's actually pretty interesting, so I'm going to put the cover right here. It is a novella written by Mike, and I'm going to butcher the last name, Mother. It's M and then author. So he actually sent me a copy of this novella for a review, so I'm going to post a review sometime this week about it. So it's basically the story of this young girl, Rachel Evans. She is in high school, and she's a very overachieving high school student trying to get into Dartmouth College. And she doesn't really have that many friends. The whole book pretty much centers on this one day where she has to tutor this girl. And it takes place over the whole night, actually. It's a very, very, very short book. So it's kind of a thriller, and I was really on the edge of my seat. So these intruders of this house get locked inside the house with this girl, trying to protect these kids from these bad guys. And I mean, it's kind of like, it's fast-paced and it's a little scary. And anyway, I'll get to it when I do my review, so you'll learn more about it. But I just want to let you know that I read that, and it was really cool. It was the first time an author's ever sent me a book. That's it. Those are the books that I read this month. I have a lot of reading to do in December. Maybe I'll do a TBR video. I'll do a TBR video, but not now because I feel like I've been talking for too long. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!